Power systems are, in many ways, the lifeblood of fantasy. Escapism to a world where the impossible becomes the ordinary through magic is what so often drives people to pick up these stories in the first place. From the bending in Avatar, to the allomancy in Mistborn, to the absurdity of devil fruits in One Piece, for many, the quality of a story's power system can be the deciding factor on whether or not they continue reading the world the author has created. But as we all know, likely from personal experience, not all power or magic systems are, well, good. Some are littered with convenience and plot armor, or suffer from unnecessary complexity that can often lead to a reader's suspension of disbelief being shattered. On the other hand, sometimes the power systems are so simple that we as readers grow bored with what's supposed to be the most exciting aspect of fantasy: the combat. While it could be reasonably argued that a sound power system doesn't make or break a story, it is nonetheless crucial. One could enjoy fantasy for the characters, the world building, or even the romantic subplots. However, a strong and well-defined magic system is often the deciding factor between a story being merely good and one being truly great. And that's what I wanted to explore today. What exactly makes a power system satisfying? Not just functional or flashy or overpowered, but truly satisfying in a way that deepens the story, challenges the characters, and keeps us turning the page and wanting more. Before we can begin analyzing what makes a power system truly satisfying, we need to establish the basic categories in which they tend to fall. Generally speaking, most power systems can be placed into one of three groups: hard, soft, or hybrid. These labels aren't rigid, but they help us better understand how different systems operate and what expectations they set for the readers or viewers. Let's begin with hard magic systems. A hard magic system is one that has clearly defined rules, limitations, and mechanics. These systems are often explained directly to both characters and the audience, allowing readers to understand what the powers can and can't do. Think of them almost like a science, one that operates by consistent laws, even if those laws are fictional. One of the most well-known examples of a hard magic system is allomancy from Mistborn. In this system, individuals known as allomancers gain specific abilities by ingesting and burning different metals. Each metal has a distinct and consistent effect. Steel allows users to push off metal objects. Pewter enhances strength. Tin sharpens the senses, and so on and so forth. These rules are established early, and the tension in the action scenes often comes from how creatively characters can apply those rules while still staying within their limitations. Interestingly, hard magic systems also create space for mystery, not by being vague, but because the rules are so rigid. When a character appears to be breaking those established rules, it immediately signals to the audience that something unusual is happening, which builds intrigue and suspense. Because we trust the system, any deviation from it feels meaningful and demands an explanation, one that, if a book is well written, will come. A similar example in manga is the Nen system in Hunter x Hunter. Nen includes different categories: enhancement, emission, manipulation, transmutation, conjuration, and specialization. And each character's abilities are shaped by their category. What makes Nen particularly compelling is that while it's complex, it remains internally consistent. While each transmuter, for example, may have the ability to transform their aura into different things, such as Killua's electricity versus Hisoka's bungee gum, the properties behind this ability are essentially the same. This allows readers to follow along with the strategies and predict outcomes based on what's already been established. We know relatively what the boundaries of our characters' powers are, and this allows us to become heavily invested in the matchups they find themselves in. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have soft magic systems. These systems operate with little to no explanation. The mechanics of this magic is often left vague or entirely mysterious. Rather than focusing on how the powers work, soft magic systems are more concerned with the effect they have on characters, the world, or the tone of the story. A commonly cited example of this is Harry Potter. While we know there are wands, spells, and incantations, the deeper workings of magic are never really explained. We don't have clear metrics for magical stamina, spell power, or what makes one wizard more potent than another. Magic simply exists, and it does what the plot needs it to do, as long as it stays within the established limits of the world. Soft magic systems can create a strong sense of wonder and allow for thematic use of power, but they also carry risk. If the rules aren't clear, it becomes easy for the story to resolve problems in ways that feel too convenient, what's often referred to as a deus ex machina. Without constraints, the sense of danger or challenge can sometimes disappear. Many stories, however, I find exist in an in-between space that I refer to as a hybrid magic system. These systems combine elements of both hard and soft systems. Some aspects are explained in a rule-based manner, while others remain ambiguous or open to interpretation. This allows authors to establish structure and tension while still maintaining flexibility and mystery. Naruto is a strong example of this because chakra, hand signs, and elemental affinities are all explained with some consistency, at least in the beginning of the story. We learn how techniques are developed, how elements interact, such as water beating fire, and even how certain bloodline traits grant specific abilities to members of certain clans. But despite all that structure, there are plenty exceptions, rule-bending moments, and narrative twists that stretch or ignore the system when needed, especially in later arcs. Most famously, Naruto having all of his chakra points blocked, but because he's a Jinchuriki, he can just somewhat ignore this established rule that when all of your chakra points are blocked, you shouldn't be able to funnel chakra. That same can be said for One Piece. Devil fruits follow a loose structure. Each person can eat one, each fruit grants one ability, and the users lose the ability to swim. But beyond that, the variety and evolution of powers are wide-ranging and sometimes unpredictable. The deeper rules behind how the power works are hinted at, but rarely explained in full. For example, we still don't understand how a devil fruit awakens. We just know that that is a lair that exists that people can reach. Each type of power system serves different narrative purposes, and none is inherently better than the other. But knowing which kind of system a story uses is the first step in understanding how it functions and how well it supports the characters and the world around it. That said, I do have a preference in terms of which power system I find to be the most satisfying and what I believe most often makes for the more exceptional examples of magic in fantasy. At its core, a power system is most satisfying when it clearly communicates not just what characters can do, but also what they can't. It's the boundaries that create tension. Without limits, there's no real sense of danger. Without rules, the outcome of a conflict can feel arbitrary. This is where hard magic systems tend to shine. In Mistborn, for example, allomancy isn't just about having powers, it's about understanding how those powers work in detail and what happens when you push them too far. Vin, the protagonist, is trained by Kelsier to study the effects of each metal carefully. She learns, for instance, that pewter increases physical strength, sure, but also numbs the pain to the point that you might not realize you're seriously injured. Steel might let you push off metal, but if the object is significantly heavier than you, you're going to go flying instead of a controlled push. There's a learning curve, and every decision in a fight is met with real consequences. Even more interesting is the difference between Mistborn, who can use all the metals, and Misting, who are limited to one. This creates a built-in variety and tension because if you only have one ability, you need to plan around that constraint, and if you run out of that metal mid-fight, you're done. Additionally, it adds an extra layer of complication where most Mistings in the story are masters of their metal versus Mistborn, who often become jacks of all trades, leading to situations where a Misting can at times be even more dangerous than a full-blown Mistborn. Similarly, Hunter x Hunter's Nen system builds tension around its structure. Characters are categorized based on their affinity. Some types are naturally easier to learn than others for each person, depending on their natural affinity. But even beyond that, Nen abilities are often strengthened by conditions and restrictions. One of the most famous examples is Kurapika's chain ability. It's incredibly powerful, but only really comes to its full power when used against members of the Phantom Troop, the group responsible for the elimination of Kurapika's clan. This limitation creates pressure, as even when we as readers can see a real advantage to Kurapika being able to use those chains elsewhere, He literally cannot, at least not to their full extent, and it adds this beautiful layer of extra detail whenever he's forced to fight, because Kurapika can't use that power just anywhere. It forces strategic thinking and raises the emotional stakes every time he considers fighting. Even hybrid systems like Naruto apply this principle selectively. Early on in Shippuden, the elemental chakra natures are presented with clear interactions. Water beats fire, fire beats wind, and so on. These rules help us understand who has the upper hand in a fight even before it begins, and while this framework doesn't always remain consistent throughout the series, especially in later arcs where the main characters are essentially throwing nuclear bombs at each other and refer to them as jutsus, its presence early on adds an important layer of structure to the battles. The point here is simple. Clarity and constraint are what makes a power system feel meaningful. If anything is possible, then nothing feels earned. But if a character has to work within clear limitations, then every clever use of their power feels like a small victory. Every win has a weight, and every loss feels heavy. And sometimes, what a power can't do is just as, if not more interesting than what it can. Once a power system has clear rules and limits, the next thing that makes it truly satisfying is how well it reflects the characters who use it. Because the best power systems don't just tell us what a character can do, they show us who they are. Powers that align with a character's personality, beliefs, trauma, or growth help turn combat into character development. They allow emotional stakes to translate directly into physical action, making every battle more than just a fight. A great example of this is Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. At the beginning of the series, Zuko's firebending is aggressive and fueled by anger. It's powerful but unstable, much like Zuko himself. In contrast, his sister Azula channels cold, calculated precision, and her firebending reflects that with its deadly accuracy. In this way, Azula becomes a hurdle that Zuko, while still stuck in his ways, would never have been able to overcome. But as Zuko grows, he learns that firebending isn't just about rage, it's about energy, life, and balance. He reconnects with a true source of fire, and his bending transforms along with him. It's not just a power-up, it's a shift in his identity and worldview. His growth as a person is mirrored in his bending, and his newfound strength is on display in his final matchup with his sister in the faithful Agni Kai. It is the way Zuko's power aligns with his character growth that creates an additional layer of complexity and power in an otherwise relatively soft magic system such as bending. We see the same thing in One Piece, particularly with Luffy. Luffy's devil fruit, turning his body into rubber, seems absurd at first, but it perfectly matches his personality. He's flexible, impossible to keep down, and constantly bouncing back from whatever life throws at him. As the story progresses and we learn more about the deeper implications of his abilities, it becomes clear that his power isn't just about elasticity, it represents freedom. His willpower, his resistance to oppression, and his unbreakable spirit are literally built into his body. And as Luffy develops more and more into a liberator of the oppressed, so too does his control over his devil fruit. It's a frankly beautiful and poetic use of power in an otherwise cartoonish and often whimsical series, and it's one of my favorite, more subtle bits of writing genius from Oda. And of course, Hunter x Hunter takes this to an almost unmatched level. In that world, a character's nen ability isn't chosen at random, it's shaped by their psychology. Killua's electricity can be seen as a manifestation of the pain and torture he endured growing up from his own family, turned into something he can control. Kurapika's chains symbolize the binding nature of his revenge, and his restriction to only use them on the Phantom Troop reinforces how deeply personal that motivation is. And even Crollo, the leader of the troop, has a power that allows him to steal other people's ability, a fitting choice for someone whose identity is fragmented and elusive. These aren't just cool powers, they're extensions of each character's inner life, and when a story does this well, every ability carries meaning. A character's strength becomes something they've earned, something that reflects not just their training, but their values. In short, powers that are tied to personality help answer a deeper question, not just what the character is fighting to win, but why they are fighting at all. Another key factor that separates a good power system from a great one is how well it integrates with the story's world building. A satisfying system doesn't feel like it was just pasted on top of the world. It feels like it grew out of it. It should feel like a natural part of the setting's history, culture, economy, and even its politics. Let's go back to Naruto for a moment. While the series has its fair share of inconsistency, it does something really well in the way the chakra system is embedded into the world. The elemental nature of chakra, fire, water, earth, wind, lightning, is reflected in the geography and culture of the hidden villages. Techniques are passed down through clans, sometimes tied to specific bloodlines like the Sharingan or the Byakugan. These aren't just powers, they're traditions, family legacies, and sources of both pride and conflict. And then there were the tailed beasts. Early on, they seem like random monsters, but over time we learn that they've played massive roles in the shaping of the political power structure of the entire ninja world. Villages weaponize them like living nukes, and wars have been fought over who controls them. The power system isn't just a tool for action, it's a major factor in how the nations rise and fall. We see something similar in One Piece. Devil fruits are more than just magical abilities, they're part of the world's economy and history. They're rare, expensive, and highly sought after. Governments hoard them, pirates steal them, and the black market trades them. Vegapunk even suggests that they may be the physical manifestation of people's desire, which ties the power system directly to the human condition. And on a more grounded level, the fact that devil fruit users can't swim in a world covered by oceans isn't just a quirk of the series, it's a world-building choice that demonstrates the devastating control figures like Emu have as they gain the ability to do things like flood the world, thereby holding the population at gunpoint. The nature of this hostage situation that binds people's freedom creates a fitting story-centric reason for why someone like Luffy, the embodiment of freedom against oppression, and Emu are fated to fight one day. Even in Mistborn, the power system is there to reinforce larger themes. Allomancy is hereditary, passed down through noble bloodlines, which means only the elite have access to real power. Magic isn't just a system, it's a form of control. It reinforces the class divide, and the story's central conflict is all about breaking that monopoly. The mechanics of allomancy support the themes of rebellion, inequality, and revolution. In all of these cases, the power system does more than fuel the action. It adds depth to the world the characters live in. It explains why societies function the way they do, why characters have to make the choices they make, and why certain conflicts are inevitable. When a power system is tied to the world's history, institutions, and ideologies, it feels genuine, real, and impactful. Ideally, a well-integrated power system should feel like it existed long before the main characters entered the story, and like it will continue shaping the world long after they're gone. The final piece that makes a power system truly satisfying to me is how it handles growth. In many fantasy stories, characters unlock new abilities, evolve existing ones, or access hidden reserves of power, but what separates a forgettable power-up from a memorable one is whether that growth feels earned. In the best systems, advancements isn't just a matter of training hard or getting lucky. It's tied to characters' emotional or psychological journey. Power becomes a reflection of internal change, and unlocking something new means overcoming something old. A perfect example of this is in Avatar: The Last Airbender, particularly Aang's struggle with firebending. Technically, Aang learns firebending fairly early, but after accidentally burning Katara, he becomes afraid of it. The fear rooted in guilt and shame creates a mental block that prevents him from progressing in his journey to master the elements. It's only after confronting that fear and learning that fire can be a source of warmth and life and not just destruction that he begins to actually master it. His physical development is inseparable from his emotional healing. What makes this even more powerful is that he undergoes this growth alongside Zuko, who is going through a similar transformation in the same direction. The best systems use these moments to show that power isn't something handed out at random, it's something that must be claimed through sacrifice, self-discovery, and change. Whether it's accepting one's past, letting go of anger, or embracing a sense of purpose, the turning point in a character's power is often a turning point in their story. And when a character earns their power rather than submitting to it, the audience feels the impact. We've been with them through the struggle, and the payoff doesn't just feel cool, it feels right. At the end of the day, a satisfying power system isn't just about flashy abilities or clever mechanics, it's about storytelling. The best systems are built on clear rules and real limitations. They reveal who the characters are and reflect how they grow. They're embedded into the world's culture and history, and most importantly, they evolve in ways that feel meaningful. Whether it's Vin learning to balance trust and power in Mistborn, Luffy embodying freedom and resilience in One Piece, Aang confronting his fears in Avatar, these systems work because they serve the story, not the other way around. Great power shouldn't just be something a character has, it should be something they struggle with, something they earn, something that ultimately changes them. And so now I'll turn it over to you. What's your favorite power system, and why does it work for you? Drop it in the comments because I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and share this video maybe with a friend who loves discussing aspects of storytelling because it really helps the channel grow. But that is all I have for you guys today. So with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and until next time, peace.